But what about the pork? So would it be a pork chop like pork chops and applesauce? Well, no. The Rastellis are going to do something different. And I will say to you, it's almost a challenge that if you have never tried the Rastelli premium pork ribeye, then you probably haven't tasted pork in the way that you should have tasted it, right? Like if you've only your whole life had pork chops, you are missing out. And how about if we welcome you to what is the best? So I'm going to give the offer for a second, Ray, because they're so beautiful. But you're actually receiving 10 of them. If you come on over here with me, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of them. Each of the thems will be 6 ounces. You receive it also with the Tuscan herb butter. They're super easy to make. Trust me, if I can make them, you can too. 3 easy payments of $23.33, and there is an auto delivery every 90 days. I will say that we had a Today Special Value where we had a couple of offerings and the pork ribeye was part of it, and everyone flew in like they couldn't get enough. It was like, woo!
Yes.
The pork ribeyes are in a Today Special Value. Every time we sell them as an item, me, you, and Alberti, they sell out all the time. And hi, Ray Rastelli.
It is so good to be here
nice
with you,
to
Rachel.
see you.
We're so excited about the hour because we have so many of our family favorites here today. But this happens to be my very, very favorite when it comes to pork, and it's a pork ribeye. Now, we all know that the ribeye steak is my favorite. Well, the pork ribeye steak is my favorite when it comes to pork. Now, it's not just any pork.
Nope.
You're going to see the beautiful marbling inside there. Pennsylvania Dutch Amish country. Unlike beef, we want this to be fresh. We do not age it. So this comes right out of the Pennsylvania Dutch area, right into our butcher shops. We trim them, we take all the fat off it, we take the bone off it, and we cut them in these beautiful steaks. And what you're gonna see, when you see these steaks, number one, you're not gonna see any fat, but what you're gonna see is incredible tenderness, juiciness, because most people think about a pork chop and they think about their grandmother's pork chop.
You're right, they do. With the bone,
tell you that
pork chops and applesauce. They've been watching the Brady Bunch.
This is not grandma's pork chop.
No, it is not.
Look at that.
It's not the pork chops that I grew up with, right? It's
that's
not.
So true.
There isn't a bone in this. You're going to eat end to end the full 6 ounces. You can see the juiciness, right? You can see the texture and how and meaty it is at the same time. And they are shipped, as you do for us all the time, Ray, in the individual frozen, vacuum sealed packages, because we know that maybe you're like me, you're on your own, or you're a family of 2, or a family of 3, or a family of 4. You take out what you need. And with these being 6 ounces, Ray, honestly, I think you could cut them in half and do 3 and 3 if you wanted to add the Faroe Island salmon with it.
Yes,
then
you
all of a
could.
sudden you have a little twist on the surf, and the turf is actually a pork.
And I'm slicing this one down because
I'm gonna take a
yes,
bite.
you can take a bite. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you, number one, just how lean it is, right? This is lean, but the marbling inside of there is what gives us the beautiful tender and texture. But because it's so lean and we take all that fat off it, look at how many slices I'm getting out of this pork steak. So this goes a really, really long way. As you said, Rachel, if you want to take this and put it on a salad, put it on
We'll go that way?
Yeah, we're going to go.
We're
going to go
Sorry,
right
this way.
here, right?
Yep.
Because
how pretty
it can be a salad for 2. It can be a steak for 1. There's so many things you can do with it. And the thing I like most about this is you can do anything that you would do with veal or with chicken, and you can turn this into something extremely special.
It's so delicious. I'm going to take a bite here because, again, and I said, and you heard me say this, right, that before I had tasted this, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of pork because I was like used to pork chops, and I was like, okay, pork chops, and you were like, no, it's pork ribeye, and I'm like, okay, well, what is that? And then I took a bite, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that pork could have this meaty of a flavor, tender of a flavor, juicy of a flavor. I think I was just used to dry pork.
I think you're...
Am I the only one, or does everybody cook it wrong or something?
Well, I think it's because of where we start, right? We start with the ribeye, we start with the Pennsylvania Dutch pork. Now think about it. Can you go through an entire pork steak or a pork ribeye with a fork like I'm doing here? This is no magic fork. This is a thick steak that I'm going right through with a fork. So if you want to cook it like a steak, like I did here, Rachel, you can do that. If you want to bread it for a pork chop, you can do that. But here's my favorite. This one is my very favorite. We've taken one of our pork steaks. Now look at the size of this.
That's one 6 ouncer that you want. You look at the mallet. You pounded it out
with a mallet. Of course, we've floured it and topped it with some mozzarella cheese. It's going to go on top of my pasta. And I will tell you, that's a meal for minimally 2 people. I mean, when
Easily.
you think about what that is going to feed, and it is going to be as tender and as juicy as any piece of veal, any piece of chicken.
You know what? And again, you're a self-made, purveyor of the finest meats and cheese. Your family business has now been in business. Is it 47 years?
40, going on 48 years.
Going on 48
yes.
years.
Yes.
You are our largest food brand, but it isn't, on one item. It's simply that you're very, very judicious about who you are sourcing and how you're sourcing your meats and chops. I think that's the reputation that 7-star restaurant in Dubai is counting on. They're counting on your kind of persnickety, judicious, and discriminating way that you are about for your meats and for your pork and for your chicken. Like every single thing, you're like, I feel like 90% of the things you look at, you say no, and maybe, or even more.
You're
99%
right.
you say no, and that
Yes.
1% you say yes, and we get the best because of that.
You do, and you're right about that. And the reason why, because we've been in the butcher shop for 48 years. I get to see my guests every week when they come in. I can't disappoint them. I have to make sure I am feeding their family the same way I'm feeding mine. This, again, getting back to this pork steak. There you go. Here, we're going to.
I'm going to take a bite.
I'm going to let you. I'm going to do this with a fork. Look at this.
We're
right
both
through
forking it
with
through.
right through the
Yeah.
fork. That's how tender
There we
this
go.
is. Now, I've made some kebabs.
That's my bite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Made some kebabs here, which
Down
were
here, the
really,
kebabs, those
really
are pretty.
simple to do, right? We've sliced it over for a steak, and
wait.
there. Oh, this is this is a pork fried steak. So all I did is, again, I pounded out that pork and breaded it, floured it, right on top. And of course, if you got some of that country gravy to go right on top, I will tell you that this is a real favorite at my house. Even my grandkids love this product because
That's for 2 people, and that could be 1.
Easily for 2 people.
So let me give you an update on what's happening. I've got 400 people on the lines. We don't have an unlimited number, right? So there are only so many to go around. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, because they're 6 ounces each. And do you see how Ray made 1 turn into this? That I feel like that could feed 2 people. You're not actually getting 10. You could literally get 20 meals out of this. 3 easy payments of $23.33. They come individually vacuum sealed with that Tuscan herb butter, which makes them even more delicious if you wanted to kind of tempt them. It's M92625. The auto delivery is every 90 days. You're looking at $6.99 for each one of these. That's an amazing value, especially now when kind of the price of meat is going everywhere. We're going to see you a little later.
Yes, thank you.
Because, of course, you have our show-only price, which, of course,